Decorating everyday items can bring joy and personality into your home. Get ready to add a touch of whimsy to a mason jar bank with an adorable air-dry clay steampunk kitty. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to decoupage a mason jar and add this cute and quirky steampunk cat. Hello, my crafty friends. I'm Donna from Mason Creations, etc., and welcome to my channel. So go grab some supplies and let's get started making a mess. The first thing I'm doing is wiping this piece with an alcohol wipe. This will remove any dirt, debris, or fingerprints. You want a nice clean surface to start off with. I'm going to brush on Polyvine's multi-surface lacquer and a dead flat finish. I'm using the dead flat finish because I want to remove the shine. It's specially formulated to create a durable bond on slick, non-porous surfaces such as plastic, glass, ceramic, and metal. That bond acts as a gripping layer that allows paints, decoupage papers, or transfers to stick more effectively. Without it, top layers may chip, peel, or fail to cure properly. For best results, I'm going to let this dry overnight. Notice that the glass isn't clear any longer. The multi-surface lacquer removed the shine, which gives the glass a frosted appearance. If you plan on having a section that you want to see through, make sure to avoid the lacquer in that area. Removing the shine is what's needed to give your paint good adhesion. This and all the products you're going to see me use today came from DecoupageNapkins.com, my wonderful sponsors. I'm going to give the jar a coat of white paint using Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color cotton. Dixie Belle isn't like most chalk paints. This one goes on really smooth and creamy. I'm going to use a sponge to apply the paint. A sponge will lay down a thicker layer of paint than a brush will. This way I can avoid having to do a second coat. I'm spraying the sponge with a little water to get it pre-moistened. I've found that the paint goes on nicer if you do that. I did use a brush to get into some tight areas around the bottom of the jar and the neck. I'm not applying any paint on the threads of the jar. I intend to add a slotted lid on this jar so it can be used as a bank. Now it's time to measure this jar so I can add this really cool steampunk rice paper. It measures 4 inches from just under the lip at the top to the bottom. So I'm going to cut a 4-inch strip of paper. My crafty friend Tracy requested a bank with a kitty on it. Tracy, this video is for you. I'm adding a bunch of little slits about 1/2 inch at the bottom and top of the paper. I'm adding some of them where the lines in the metal print are. These pieces will overlap where the curve of the jar is, instead of causing a wrinkle. This way your paper will lay nice and flat. I tore off the white edge on one side of the paper using a water brush. A water brush has a cartridge that you fill with water and then brush it on the napkin or rice paper. The water dispenses easily, so this is really convenient. You can find this in my description box below in my favorite tools section, just in case you want to check it out. Normally want to tear your rice paper because it gives you an edge that's easier to blend. However, for this project, I'm going to be blending that one side edge. It won't matter if the others are cut for this particular project. I'm cutting around the pattern using the images of the metal pieces as my guide. If I just overlap the pieces with 2 straight edges, you'll see a straight seam down the middle. It'll look a little darker where the papers overlap, but I'll be putting my clay piece right over top of where it overlaps, so this cute cat is going to hide it for me. I'm using Polyvine Decorator's Varnish as my decoupage adhesive today. You can use this product as a varnish and an adhesive, which is true for all the Polyvine formulas. It works so much better than the most popular brand of decoupage glue. It's not a glue, so it doesn't go on thick and lumpy. It's a varnish, so it dries crystal clear and will never yellow. I started with the torn edge, brushing it to the jar. The paper at the top and bottom where I have the little clips are laying down nice and flat with no wrinkles. DecoupageNapkins.com has such a great selection of napkins that you can purchase one at a time. They carry many other craft supplies such as rice paper, paint, clay, molds, and a great selection of Polyvine products. over 9,000 products and growing. They are wonderful to work with and will send your order out fast. You'll receive free shipping on orders over $75 and special bonus points for orders over $100. Subscribe to their newsletter by entering your email address, and you'll receive 10% off your next order. They are truly your one-stop shop for craft supplies. Make sure you check them out. I'll be leaving links for all the products I use in my description box below, as well as more information on the previously mentioned promotions. Please note that any of these promotions are subject to future changes. I made sure to brush over the entire jar with the decorator's varnish. I cut a piece of plastic from a Ziploc bag, sprayed it with some water, then laid it on the image and smoothed out any wrinkles or bubbles with my hand through the plastic. When doing this, make sure you always wet the plastic first, or it will stick to your rice paper or napkin, pulling it off. I let that dry for several hours, and now I'm giving my entire jar a coat of Polyvine heavy-duty wood varnish in a satin finish. 2 or 3 coats of this gives you a beautiful shine that's moisture and high heat resistant, as well as high chemical resistant, high stain resistant, high abrasion resistant, and food safe. This works wonderful on any painted or decoupage surface or shiny surface that has been coated with Polyvine multi-surface lacquer. I've had a few people ask me if this varnish has a strong smell. No, it does not. It's water-based, so there are no harmful fumes at all. I'm going to let this dry for an hour before moving on. I'm using Doss clay to make some embellishments for this project. Doss is my favorite clay. It's so easy to work with, has very little shrinkage when drying, and minimal cracking. After pressing the clay into the molds, I'm scraping off the excess with my palette knife, and then smoothing the clay out with some water. Then I'll put them in the freezer for 20 minutes. Freezing the clay makes it rigid so they just pop out of the mold easily. No tiny little limbs will break off. DecoupageNapkins.com has a new line of silicone molds, and this small white mold is part of their new Accent Mold series. They are quite reasonably priced and have such amazing detail. And there's quite a large selection to choose from. If you want to see an in-depth video on how to work with air dry clay, click the banner in the top right corner of your screen. I'll also leave you a link for that video in my description box below. Fresh out of the freezer, look how easily these just pop right out of the mold, and nothing delicate breaks off. But make sure you remove the clay from the mold as soon as you take it out of the freezer. You want it to thaw, but not in the mold. These are frozen solids, so I'm going to have to let them thaw for a few minutes before I can glue them to the jar. But they actually thaw pretty quickly. I'm going to use Aleene's tacky glue to add my clay pieces to the jar. It's the best I've found for gluing wet clay. I'm adding a bead of glue at the bottom of the jar in that little bit of an indent at the end of the rice paper. Because the clay beads are wet, they're heavy and keep sliding, so I'm using painter's tape to hold them in place until the glue dries. Now I'm adding my cute little steampunk cat. I put it right over where the 2 papers overlapped. This hides that overlap perfectly. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. It's fun to see what cities and countries you are all watching from. I'm filming from Las Vegas, Nevada in the United States. If any glue seeps out from under the clay, I'm cleaning it off right away with a damp brush. I'm going to add some of the beads at the top of the jar just under the lip, and I'll put a couple pieces of tape on those too. I'm going to let all my clay dry overnight. If you live in a humid climate, you may need to let your clay dry a little longer. I'm getting ready to start painting now. I'm going to be doing some layering of paint colors, as well as adding several layers of metallic wax rose. which will make the cat and beads look like metal. So here we go. I'm using Pentart Black to paint the cat's hat. There's a lot of detail in this mold, so I'm making sure to get it in all the cracks of the detail. The turquoise item that you're seeing me use is called a cup cradle. It's made from silicone and I rely on it a lot. I use this anytime I'm working on something round. It keeps my piece from rolling away from me. I get a lot of people asking me what it is. There'll be a link in my description box below, just in case you want to check it out. I'm painting the cat Maui Sand, which is a dark gray. Again, making sure to get all of that detail. I test all the products that I recommend in my videos. I won't recommend anything that I haven't used myself and prefer. If I'm recommending it, you can bet it's a great product. Each product will be listed in my description box below and will have a blue link to make it easy for you to find. Any of the links I provide are safe for you to click on. I'm using Pentart Platinum for the hat band and Rainy Day Gray for the beads. When the paint is dry, I'm going to give the whole jar another coat of the heavy-duty wood varnish and satin and let it dry for an hour. I'm going to be doing some antiquing and need a shiny surface. I'm going to mix up some antique using a glazing medium and some black paint. I used about a teaspoon of the glazing medium to just a tiny bit of paint on my brush. I added a little water because I prefer my antiquing medium runny. I'm brushing it on and then wiping it off right away. The antique will wipe off the surface because of the satin finish. It will remain in all of the low points of the detail, and this will create some shadows to give it a 3D look. I'm using a soft dry cloth to wipe off the antiquing medium. I did the hat band, the cat, and the beads. Since the hat is already black, I left it as is. If you're enjoying this video, please let me know by hitting that like button. And why not share this with a friend? Thanks for doing that. You won't want to miss any of the new projects coming up, so don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to do some dry brushing to highlight all the raised areas in the detail. I'm using Pentart Silver on the black hat. I put some paint on just the tip of my brush and wiped most of it off on a paper towel. You need your brush almost dry. Just skim the tips of your brush across the raised areas and watch all that detail from the mold magically appear. I also skimmed across the beads with my silver paint. I used Pentart Off-White to dry brush the cat. The off-white is a very neutral color and doesn't have any warm tones at all, so it's perfect for this project. Then I used a really tiny brush to give her a pink nose using Pentart Country Rose and green eyes using Pentart Leaf Green. These tiny brushes are sold as nail art brushes. However, they are just perfect for doing really small detail work. They are a total game changer. I'll leave you a link in my description box below in case you'd like to check them out. There are some flowers in the detail of this mold. I'm going to do some color layering with these flowers. I started off with berry wine. I want a little more color than just the dry brushing, so I'm still skimming across the top, but I have more paint on my brush, so the effect is a little heavier. I went over the berry wine lightly with Pentart Red, then dotted the centers of the flowers with Pentart Gold. After all the paint dried, I gave the entire jar 2 coats of the heavy-duty wood varnish. I waited an hour between coats and another hour before moving on to the next step. The cat's nose didn't stand out enough, so I changed the color to Pentart Rose. Okay, let's have some fun with metallic wax rubs. I have a bunch of colors that I'm going to add and layer on this fun jar. I'm going to start off with Sweet Rose for the flowers. This has a pink tone to it and is so pretty. White Pearl for the cat. And I used a brush to get into some of the tight spots. I'm using white gold for the hat band and on the beads. I also layered some old silver on the hat band and again on the beads. I'm putting a small amount of the rub on my finger and rubbing it together with my thumb. Smearing it around like that prevents a large amount of your product ending up in one place. I used some of the old silver to get the brim of the hat. Wax rubs blend together with the paint, giving a beautiful shimmery metallic effect. Then layering the metallic rubs gives you a real metallic appearance. I wanted some color, but I also wanted the cat to appear to be metal as well. Now I'm going over the entire cat and the beads with the white pearl. This will brighten up everything. I'm going to use an antiquing wax in the color Soot. I'm going to add it around the cat and the beads. This will add so much depth and dimension. It will appear to lift the cat up off the jar. I'm using a brush to apply this because I want to get into the crack between the cat and the jar. I put some of the wax on my brush and wiped off most of it on a paper towel, just like I did for the dry brushing. I don't want to add a large glob of this on my project. I'm smearing it around with the brush and then using a soft dry cloth to wipe off any excess. This creates such a nice shadow around the cat, and it really makes those beads stand out. All the metallic waxes I'm using today are solvent-based, so you'll need to clean any brushes you use with mineral spirits. I keep them in a small mason jar and just swish my brushes around in it and then wipe them off with a paper towel. Everything else you've seen me use, including the polyvine varnishes, are all water-based and can be cleaned with soap and water. I use Speedball pink soap for brushes. I'll leave you a link in my description box below. It works really well. It seems to remove paint you didn't even know was still in your brush. I think you'll like it. And now let's take this to another level by adding decor wax in the color Eternal. I just love this stuff. Once it's dry, it looks like your project has been gilded in 14 karat gold. I'm using a brush and just swiping it on all the little edges of the detail. It's going to give this a gorgeous golden glow. I added some to the beads as well. This product is also solvent-based, and any brushes will need to be cleaned with mineral spirits. I let the Eternal Decor Wax dry overnight, and now I'm buffing it to a beautiful shine with a soft dry cloth. I added a coin slot mason jar lid, then a thin black satin ribbon, and this project is complete. Don't forget, all of the wonderful products I'm using today can be found at my favorite place for craft supplies, decoupagenapkins.com, and I'll leave you links in my description box below. I've added a link to a video that I think you may enjoy. Click the picture on the right to be taken directly to that video. I'm so happy you were here with me today, and thanks so much for watching. I can't wait to see you all next week. I'm working on a new project with you in mind. You can subscribe by clicking my picture in the top right corner.